creating a very serious problem for millions of people who are already impoverished.
What if your kids died from hunger? You were sitting there watching your kid gradually wither away. Do you understand why those people are angry? Do you understand why bin Laden's helpers come to them saying, will you give me support in fighting the devil? We're building a defense system that makes it almost impossible for poor people to get out of poverty in developing countries because they depend on agriculture. And if we won't buy what they produce, how are they going to make money so they can get themselves out of poverty?
Pasa la mañana entera sin que nadie pueda su carga comprar. Ay, su carga comprar.
So he's kind of stuck. We facilitate, in a way, his misery, which is caused by drought, by insects, by lack of infrastructure, and we then make sure that he doesn't have a market either. We spent taxpayers' money doing a very good thing in Dominican Republic, helping people out of poverty, wonderful thing. But what's the point of giving development assistance to build something up that we then move in and tear down a few years later?
The resources we use on this in Europe is out of proportion to, I mean, if we should design it today and decide it today, I would think that we would not have something as what we have now.
The small farmer is fighting a losing battle. That's common logic. And if you have to compete against somebody who is capable of selling his goods below the cost of producing it, you lose the competition. So basically, he is pushed back into poverty by the subsidized goods that come into his country. We are protecting our own agriculture because the developing countries can produce most of these commodities cheaper than we can.
Unfortunately, I don't have a good explanation. I'm still trying to find out more who they are, these dark forces of agriculture in Europe. Yeah, if I knew more about it, I would gladly share the knowledge, but I see it as a political mystery.
Believe it or not, the impacts of the subsidies are run right down to this child. Impacts on the school. It filters all the way through, right down to the lowest level. And they felt tough. Countries that are trying to get national pride, trying to do something, that they know they can do it. We are very, very good at growing sugarcane. Yes, it's a God-given climate, but we produce good sugarcane.
We can produce what you are producing in Europe at a far cheaper price. Far cheaper price. And in the process, injecting a lot of economic muscle, to the poor people in this continent. The beginning is here on the ground. And this is the ground which they are making useless for us because of big subsidies in their countries.
Last year, 10 million preschool children died of starvation and nutrition-related illnesses. Many of these kids could have survived if their parents had an opportunity to sell what they produce.
I Europa tror vi att cancer eller fet mat är den största dödsorsaken i världen. Det är inte sant. Det är fattigdomen som är den främsta dödsorsaken.
10 million. That is a lot of little children. That corresponds to an airplane with 200 or 300 children falling down every 15 minutes around the clock, year after year. That is the number of kids that die. We take virtually no action. We just sit back and talk about it. It is far from a free market situation. It is more like a planned economy because it is effectively central planning. That's really what it's about when you get down to it. It's a dirty word and we don't want to use it because the Soviet Union didn't quite manage.
Optageren er knækstyret og kan styre på alle 4 hjul. Optageren...
Our farmers have also a right for fair living conditions and have the right to have a comparable income. And if you look at the income situation, in the average, the European farmers have less income than the average of our society. So therefore, there's no reason to blame them for getting money for doing nothing or things like that.
People working in the shoemaking industry or in the textile industry in Europe never had a guarantee for being gold-plated just because they were in the textile industry. But people who own farms have more or less a situation like that. It is totally out of line with normal economic thinking.
This is not true that you treat them different from the society. I'm sorry to say that, but what they provide is a service to our society. So, do we stop paying, for example, teachers? They do also a service for our society.
So even where we were battling to survive as cane farmers supplying normal cane, we now find even when we make sweets, we're getting dumped sweets in South Africa, and it's destroying this whole factory. When I bring a packet of these sweets and I say to him, look, there's goodness, there's everything else in it, he might, on that basis, take it. But all he does is he picks up a packet of imported sweets that's EU sugar's been subsidized, it makes it cheaper, and he says, you can't compete. We're not making money, no. We're not making. What I should do as a businessman, I should just close the place down. We had 16 people. We're now back to, we cut down to 3, 4. And in a country where we need to create employment consistently, there are going to be problems if we don't create more employment, that's for sure. And crime is a war. It is. It's a type of war. We have to create employment in Southern Africa. When people are hungry, they're going to eat. If you've got a family, even you, if your wife and your children are starving, you're going to climb a wall somewhere. And we've got to understand that. This is my home. I live here. I've got to be aware of the pressures and the problems outside the fence.
Det är därför som Ed Granham vill ta med oss europeer till bygdens skola.
You cannot have islands of pockets of money or wealth or stability in areas in a sea of poverty. It cannot work. It's unsustainable. I just wish that in the Europes of the world would have the same sort of mindset. Because no matter how high your fences are, you're not going to stop refugees, you're not going to stop terrorism, yes. And we know in South Africa, we've come from apartheid where we tried to isolate. It doesn't work. You have to open and knock down fences, and you have to rebuild communities. You will never have a fence high enough if there's hunger on the other side.
Don't believe for a minute that the people who are pushing our borders are doing it because Europe is such a wonderful place. No, they're doing it because they think they can make a living in Europe, which they can't make at home.
Our survival depends on what we can make out of agriculture. That time is running out for the world.
Har vi europeer ett ansvar för de här människornas situation? Vad tycker vi själva?
Sometimes these arguments are used also for a purpose, and for the purpose to blame the European Union that we are, so to say, guilty for all evils in the world. But thanks God, this is not true.
It's terrible. We are shocked to see these policies.
Vi har kommit till ett land där regeringen gjorde motstånd och försökte rädda sina jordbrukare genom att sätta sig upp mot Bryssel och Washington.
It's a nightmare for policymakers, it's a nightmare for farmers, it's a nightmare for everybody in the country.
Well, I can take you into any shop in Ghana, show you the products that comes out from other countries into our country. This milk from Holland. Oh, there you are. Spaghetti. Look around. You have sugar coming from France. Cookies from Denmark. This is from Denmark. We have canned tomatoes from Italy. That's quite interesting.
Hundratals europeiska produkter, som de här danska kexen, kan tack vare exportstöd från EU nå ut till hyllorna i små butiker i Ghana och andra länder i tredje världen.
So you see a range of products from EU countries into Ghana, all with subsidies.
Well, agriculture is the bedrock of our economy in Ghana. So if you are unable to make the best out of agriculture, then that is the surest way of deepening poverty in my country and in other countries.
Yes.
If you look at it from the farmer's point of view, they sense that there is a problem somewhere, but they can't figure out that it's because of the subsidies in Brussels.
The chicken is mainly European. It's Holland, Denmark, I believe France.
Men sitter Ghanas regering bara med armarna i kors? Nej, den har lagstiftat om måttliga tullavgifter på fågel och ris från Europa och USA. Men det sättet att skydda Ghanas bönder är långt ifrån populärt.
We have been somehow convinced, or I would put it this way, that we have been told, I think it's a better way of constructing it, we have been told by the developed countries, by the international development agencies, by our donor partners, do not to impose these tariffs and quotas, do not give subsidies to your farmers.
Okay. So this is one of
the rooms,
okay.
And this can take, as I say, about 600 beds at a time. We have 20 of these units, and they are all lying. And it's only 2 that are being used for the turkeys.
Den djupfrysta kycklingen från Europa har tömt de här långa raderna med burar. Inte ens så här långt in i landet kan någon konkurrera med EU-kycklingens kilopris på mindre än 10 kronor.
So these are some of the problems that we face. And it's not me alone, honestly. If you go to other farms, you will see that over the years, the farms are dwindling, just down and down and down and down. So we don't know where we are heading as farmers. I'm sure that people in Ghana know that given the opportunities, we can produce enough to feed ourselves here and even feed other countries too.
Som det gick med kycklingen har det också gått med majsen.
You can see the stack of maize. Yes.
Stack of maize.
Yes. Not only what we have dried and bagged, but you see look at the heap of the maize over there. This is. I think this.
So, how do we get out of this? Paradox. How do we get out of this?
Let me assure you, with the eradication of poverty, we can divert the attentions of the poor and depressed youth.
His Excellency, Mr. Alan Kyerematen, Minister Ghana.
Ännu en stor FN-konferens där ledare från tredje världen försöker göra sin röst hörd.
All the developed countries, without any exception, they all seem to be talking about the fact that subsidies have to be eliminated, and it is wrong. They are talking about all the nice things. That is what we hear in the conferences. But as soon as we pack up and we all go back to our different countries, in terms of concrete actions, not much is done.
Men EUs jordbrukskommissionär håller inte alls med.
There were cases where our practices were really and heavily damaging the situation in the developing world. And many are still using the old examples. So but I can only do better in the future, because what happened, happened. I mean, I can't change it, unfortunately.
You also recognize that what you are doing is that you are supporting not a poor farmer. The farmers in Europe are not poor. I hope you agree with me. They are not poor. The facts are there, as you know. The tariffs were suspended, the imposition of the tariffs were suspended. And so we still continue to face that problem, not only with rice, but with imported chicken and many other products. It is not a fair situation. That's why I did mention to you that our hands are tied. Once they make this as a condition for development assistance, for aid that they give to us, naturally, we are bound to adhere to that.
Okay.
It is not the question that we are asking that they should reduce the tariffs so that we can more easily export to these countries. No, this is not my intention, and I have no interest. So it is absolutely in their own interest that they reduce their trade barriers.
We just leave ourselves to the fate and destroy the lives of our farmers, and eventually put ourselves on the path of total condemnation.
all these people are trying by whatever means to fly to Europe as illegal immigrants. And that's why, you have all these millions of illegal immigrants coming in who could have stayed home if they had a better chance of selling their products in Europe.
Europeer stänger dörren för dem.
If you're sitting there with nothing to lose, because you're so poor, the only thing you're likely to lose is your child, because the child will die of malnutrition. You're willing to go along with just about anything. The beauty of it, of course, is we gain as well. We're not giving anything up. We gain tremendously by having poor people escaping poverty, because they will be much less likely to listen to fanatics with money, such as bin Laden, next time his people comes around saying, will you give me support? And right now, what we need to do is to focus on eliminating the underlying causes of international instability, and that is poverty, that is hunger, and that is hopelessness. But we don't do that.
Well, it's always attractive to blame somebody, but I could say it's the system.
De la Unión Europea a un arancel preferencial.
It doesn't make any sense to reduce this serious problem to a blame game, because this doesn't help. This doesn't make things better. We shouldn't forget that, especially in the last years, farmers were confronted with weather disasters, with health or animal health problems, and many other things.
My message to you and to the ordinary person in the developed world, in Europe, is indirectly, you are creating a very serious problem for millions of people who are already impoverished.
Para arruinar a los productores de cereales.
Que somos los, digamos, los que más años llevamos en el tomate, llevamos ya toda la vida. Y entonces tienen que contar con nosotros, porque los nuestros son más higiénicos, más limpios, por lo menos los hacemos muy bien hechos.
You are creating a very serious fundamental problem for the survivor of people who are already devastated. So it's not a question of whether you can afford it or not. It is a question of moral conscience.
The European Union is trying to fight illegal immigration, but it's creating illegal immigration by its own policy here. So hypocrisy does not pay. They are paying the price, because when people are so desperate, so poor, so desperate, whatever the risks are, they will go.
Este no tiene visado, ¿eh? No visado, nada.
The Europeans are very clever, but sometimes I say, well done for them. To have all these guys coming in and being quite a nightmare for them.
Medan mörkret sänker sig över Europa gör våra många nykomlingar sig redo för ännu en natt. Vår långa resa jorden runt är slut, och kanske är det så att vi europeer helt enkelt står inför ett val.
We have a choice. We can either import their products or we can import them. But right now we're closing our borders for both and closing our eyes for the impact. And we're going to pay dear.